And I wanted to say thank you to all the audience, all the participants that are on the call. And, changing careers can be incredibly challenging and at the same time, really, really rewarding. And I'm excited to share some best practices that will help everyone tell their story with self-confidence and subject matter expertise and passion and lead to a successful pivot. And I'll share some tips on how to make that process a little less stressful. So should I share a little bit more about my story, or we want to get right to...
Yeah, let's dive in. What brought you to this work, and why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, awesome. So my little story feeds into everything that I'm doing today. So I started my career working on Wall Street. So I am a pivoter. I followed in my father's footsteps, and eventually I started feeling as though my days were filled with helping other people make money. And none of my day was really helping people in need. And that's something that's always been sort of a driving force for me. And so at about that time that I started having these feelings, I was starting a family, and I found myself being drawn to volunteering. And so for 7 years, I donated my time to recruiting and training and managing volunteers at a local nonprofit for under-resourced students. And then I started thinking, I really love what I'm doing and I want to earn a paycheck. So that may resonate with many of you here. So I decided to participate in a local boot camp for relaunchers. And I was introduced to a host of concepts that I wasn't familiar with, but really, really eager to learn. So the most impactful exercise was creating an elevator pitch, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more. I leveraged my skills that I developed during my volunteering and ended up pivoting into Oracle's corporate social responsibility organization or their team. And so, and while I was there, I was able to launch Oracle Career relaunch program. So welcoming other relaunchers that were also pivoting into Oracle. So incredibly rewarding. And now I'm working at iRelaunch, as you'd mentioned. And so I have the hat of a relauncher, a pivoter, and also a program designer. So just kind of wanted to set the stage a little bit, because a lot of my story is going to feed into why I know about these best practices. So
yeah, of course. Okay, so obviously not all of us who are pivoting careers are, have the luxury of like thinking about this in advance. Sometimes it comes after, a family situation or, changes at work, layoffs, whatever. There's all kinds of stuff that might impact it. If we are lucky enough to not be forced or shoved into a pivot or a relaunch, as people who might be thinking about pivoting their careers, what do you think should be your first step if you are like, maybe I want to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the key step that drives a career pivot, regardless if you've taken a break from the workforce or not, is figuring out first and foremost what you want to do. And you're doing this all over again. So it's not uncommon for us to have, chosen our first career because of a parent's influence or a connection to a college major or a business degree, or because we excelled at a specific skill, like maybe coding or debate. But now that you've worked for a while and are essentially entering the second half of your career, you know yourself better than you did when you were first starting out. And with a career break, you now have that luxury of time to reassess your goals, your values and your aspirations. And this is going to help you make a more informed decision about your future career path. And so this is why I like to call it, and many do, this time right now is a gift. So how do you start the process? It starts with reflecting on what did you like in your previous work? What brought you happiness? What gave you purpose? And what did not? And I think just because you were really good at something in your prior career, maybe you excelled, you were like this amazing attorney. But you want to ask yourself, are there components? Did I really like what I was doing? Did it bring me happiness? So this is a really intentional exercise to go through. And as you think about changing careers, figuring out what you want to do next informs everything else that follows.
Yes, loving all of this advice here. Now, we did get one question in from the chat already, so I hope you don't mind me taking it.
Oh, absolutely.
Mihaela has written in, thank you, saying, are there specific industries or roles that are more open to individuals making career pivots, especially after a break? Do you have any success stories or examples you could share to inspire us? This is a really good question. What has been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. It really depends. When you think about an industry, going after an industry just because they're more friendly to people that are pivoting, I would encourage you, because you're going through this exercise about what you want rather than what is going to be the easiest way to pivot. So there are exercises to go through this. And this really touches on transferable skills, right? So, and I am going to share some success stories, and I'll get into that in a minute, because hearing those success stories really empowers us and keeps our momentum up and gives us inspiration and excitement about this whole process. So Meg, if it's all right with you, I kind of wanted to start with, well, like, how do we even go about, who do you talk to about this? And getting back to the question about learning about some of these industries that may be more friendly, you can learn through your networking. You can learn through your personal relationships and your professional relationships. So what you really want to do is you want to start talking about what you want to do. And the way you're going to do this is you're sort of in this exploratory stage and gathering information. You're starting to become a subject matter expert in an industry that will align with your passions and your interests, because your interests have changed since you had initially started your career. So I like to say this information gathering process, it helps put your focus on learning more about a new industry. And so these relationships, they're ultimately going to, as you reach out to them, and I'll give you examples of how to do that, they're going to open up new and exciting opportunities in your career. So before you start that, the biggest thing is you want to work on an elevator pitch, because you may be wondering, like, how do I even start this conversation? How do I start a conversation with a colleague that I used to work with? So what you want to think about is essentially, what is going to tie your previous work to your and the skills that you have been learning during your career break to your new industry. So it's going to be a really short, concise, crisp language, a couple of sentences. We like to call it the elevator pitch, right? It's going to answer 3 questions. Basically, who are you and what are you looking for? What did you do before your career break? And what did you do during your career break? So that's what you're going to use when you start talking to people. So for me, it was, hi, I was in my name's Elizabeth Gish. I was in finance working on Wall Street. Then I took a 15-year career break to raise my 2 boys. And I've been working at a nonprofit recruiting and training volunteers for the past 7 years. And I'm really excited to use my skills and experience to get back to work in corporate social responsibility and practice this, right? Yeah, so it becomes muscle memory. Practice it in the mirror. Practice it. It just has to be able to roll off your tongue so that when you're talking to people, you are really owning your story. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you self-confidence, right? Because a lot of times you're switching careers, your imposter syndrome is going to kick in. And what you really want to do is try to build that self-confidence. So you have that pitch. You practice it, then you're going to start thinking out, who do I talk to? So personal relationships, it could be your neighborhood association. It could be your children's friends' parents. It could be your book club. It could be your hairdresser. It could be your chiropractor. And then you're asking them for advice. You're essentially doing, I'm going to talk about informational interviews, but you're gathering information. You're not asking anybody for a job. So you're not putting pressure on them. You're looking for, hey, do you know anybody that works in UX design? Do you know anybody that is a financial analyst? I just want to talk to them and see what they love about their job. So you're not putting pressure on them. And most people really like to be asked for advice, and they like to help. And then we're going to get into like the professional relationships, super important. So thinking about, who did you know from your past life, your past career, right? Use LinkedIn. And then share your elevator pitch and ask them if they know anybody. They may not know anybody because it was in your prior industry, but they may know somebody that's in this one that you're now interested in. And again, you're not putting pressure on them. You're not asking them for a job. And so as you continue to do these informational interviews, you're going to get better and better at it. And your network's just going to grow exponentially.
So this is a good thing to touch on here. When we're talking
Yeah.
about networking and how important it can be to your, to your job search and to your relaunch, what are some things that people may not think of as networking? I feel like a lot of times when we say networking, people hear, okay, introduce yourself to people at, professional events. Like you said, go on LinkedIn, try and see who you know that knows someone else. What are some other areas that people could think of as networking that maybe they don't already think of as?
Yeah, no, a really great question. And as I pointed out, starting off with your family and your friends and those people who may know other people. It could be your PTA. It could be somebody at the dog park. It could be somebody, if you are someone that likes to volunteer a lot, it could be somebody that you volunteer with, that you've gotten to know. And it's not as though we like to talk about, in your previous career, you were sort of stuck in time. And so if you're going out to a previous colleague, they may remember you as a financial analyst, and they may have a hard time thinking about you going into HR. But that's okay, because that's going to be start of your pitch, because you're going to start talking about, hey, this is what I have been doing with my career break, and this is where I want to go. And then they're going to remember about not essentially your hard skills, but your soft skills that that you had at that time. Like, oh my gosh, what a great colleague she was. I want to help her. So thinking along the lines of, what do you do during your daily, during your break, and who are those people that you connect to regularly, and having them introduce you to their network. That's essentially what you're trying to get to, introductions of other people's networks. And that's how it continues to grow.
Yeah. And y'all think about it in this way, because there's a lot of times with networking where you meet a lot of people that you think might be helpful. And then later on, you realize like, no, I can't actually ask them that, or this person's a better person to ask. That's okay. Those are not wasted networking opportunities, because later on you might be the person that someone is coming to you saying, hey, do you know someone in such and such field? These connections you're making may not just benefit you. They could also be benefiting people down the road. Yeah. So sometimes for me, that's a little bit easier way to look at it, as opposed to, none of this is helpful for me right now. Why did I just waste, 3 days chasing down someone to ask them questions about their career? So really, really think about it, y'all. This is not wasted effort. You can always utilize it later. We got a good question, actually several in from Liz. Liz is just running the comment section.
Good.
Liz wants to know, does it hurt women to mention that we took a break to raise kids? Will I be looked down on in interviews or on my resume when I bring this up? This is a really good question. I mean, I was not interviewing that long ago when people told me not to wear my wedding or engagement rings because they would assume I was on the mommy track and I would get hired and blah, blah. So let's talk about this. Do you think that being transparent about why you went on a break, especially if you are a mom in the caregiver role, do you think that could hurt somebody?
Well, I love this question, and it is so relevant. For anybody on the call that's not familiar, going back about, might be 2.5, almost 3 years, LinkedIn really was such a game changer when it came to normalizing career breaks. And that is one of our missions, normalizing career breaks, so that when you hand in your resume, you do not automatically go into that no pile. So if you go onto LinkedIn, they have on their drop-down menu, on your profile, you can actually categorize. You can put a category in there that talks about, it says career break. You can say, an at-home mom, at-home dad. And we've seen really creative resumes and LinkedIn profiles that say, CEO of the house, right? And you can actually put in skills that you are doing as you're a parent, multitasking, negotiating skills, right?
Running people's schedules,
Running people's schedules, doing your own budgeting, a lot of
handling,
skills.
emergencies. Yeah.
Absolutely. You may be taking care of an elderly parent as well. You may be having to, navigate the mental or the medical industry of how to pay bills and deals with insurance. So a lot of what we're doing as parents are transferable skills. So when it comes to talking about this, own it. Don't apologize for it. Own that break. It is becoming more normal. And for those of you that aren't familiar, there are career reentry programs, returnships, right? So there are employers we've worked with over like 250 employers that are creating programs that I like to call soft landing. So essentially, you're going to work for one of these employers. One of the eligibility criteria is you have to have a career break, right? It's typically around 2 years. And prior work experience. So think of it as a mid-career internship, right? And so again, you have to have had a career break. So they want to know that you had a career break and what you did during that break. And so when you go about your search, you're going about it with intention, and you can apply to these programs. Our website has links of the programs on there. We have a job board. We have employers that are actually looking for relaunchers as part of their talent acquisition strategy. So just want to say, own it. And I think you're going to be really surprised. And I can give you some more tips about how to do the interviewing and how to weave in your story into your elevator pitch.
Excellent. Loving this. We also in the chat here sharing their elevator pitches, just like with us publicly. So Priya shared theirs. There's been a couple others as well. So thank you, y'all. I'm loving seeing this. All right, let's go to another couple questions here. All right, so Liz followed up with, how do you handle a break like that on your resume? So we talked a little bit about how to call it out on LinkedIn, but in a resume, like, especially since we're used to, chronological or reverse chronological format, what would you recommend that people do to call this out, or, how to handle this in print form?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And again, not hiding it. You want to make sure it's front and center, particularly for those programs where you're applying that have this career reentry program. You can actually put it on there as a career break. And then make sure that you include, if you've done some volunteering during that career break, put it on there. If you've done some upskilling, taken some classes, online classes that are building your skill set for your new industry, put that on there. So what you want to avoid hiding it, because if you do that, what happens is in the interview, the interviewer is going to pause and try to make sense of the chronology. So help them have that answer on the ready. Make sure that you are sharing with them, though, everything that you have done and why you are the best candidate for the role and why you're super excited to be getting back to work. So that would be my best advice, is to just put their career break on there. It doesn't have to be right at the top. It can be at the bottom, but make sure that it is identifiable by the recruiter.
Yeah, and y'all seconding and thirding that, like when she says identifiable, you're not leaving breadcrumbs, okay? You're leaving whole loaves of bread for people to follow this trail of, hey, this is what I was doing, and then I took a break of this long and I learned all of these things, or I practiced these skills, and now here's what I'm going on and doing next, or where I want to go next. Like, truly, when they say call it out, make it like unavoidably clear. All right, another audience question. How should we manage the internal dialogue and self-doubt that sometimes accompanies career reentry? You touched on this a little bit earlier when it comes to imposter syndrome. What should people know about that self-doubt? What are some ways that we could fight it, since it's a little bit an inevitable part of this?
It really is. And I do have to say it's inevitable, even if you haven't taken a career break, but it's exponentially inevitable when you have taken that career break, right? You haven't been through an interviewing process, sometimes up to 10 years, right? For me, it was 15 years. I had like almost paralysis when it came to imposter syndrome. And so what the best piece of advice, and I'll go back to what I had said earlier about becoming that subject matter expert. Okay, so how do you do that? Yes, you go through the networking, you start talking to people, you start dialing into, okay, this is something that really interests me, and I think I can be good at it. And so what you want to do is you want to start following influencers on social media and really diving deep into reading articles, finding out any sort of new acronyms that may be in that industry. The more knowledge that you have, the more comfortable you're going to be during this whole network process. So you'll be able to talk, with authority, and people are going to start to listen. And as soon as it's also in the posturing, right? Not only what comes out of in our mouths, I'm just thinking out loud here. It's like, how you show up and you start talking about it, that excitement that you've got because you know what you're talking about, it's actually going to be tangible to the people that you're talking about. And that in and of itself, it's hugely powerful when it comes to combating that imposter syndrome. And it will carry over to when you're actually in that interview.
No, these are really, really good call outs here. Thank you. Okay, we got another question from the audience here. Carolyn had wanted to know, I'm trying to use a combination of severance and bartending to earn my master's, and the self-paced program isn't going well. How can I use that work gap to showcase my side projects and education efforts if I don't have a degree to show for it? So this is a really good question, right? There's a ton of people that start down this path. I mean, my husband, I think, is 5 years into finishing his bachelor's degree because, he's going to school while working full time. So let's talk about this. Should you have like certificates or, accolades to go along with this career break? And if so, how should you handle that if you're not going to have them?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So when it comes to certifications and courses, there's no doubt that those will help you building that skill set. So if you think about it, during your career break, you're not getting the work experience, but you are building the skill set. So it's either one or the other that you need to be showing. So other ways that you can build that skill set is one that I used, right? I didn't go and get all these certifications. I did volunteering, but it was strategic volunteering. I didn't know it at the time. So you may be doing something that you don't know could actually help as a springboard to your next job. So think about it as strategic volunteering. And that means that there is a goal in mind that you have set out for yourself. And it may take you a while to be volunteering with a variety of different nonprofits. But eventually you're going to find one that really is that sweet spot, and then build on that, and then start connecting with people in that, hey, do they know other volunteering experiences that could help you continue to build that? And something I do want to underscore here, that the community that you're building around you, be it a mentor or a community. We have a Facebook Return to Work Facebook forum with over 11,000 members, the Relaunch Return to Work forum. And it's for relaunchers that are at the beginning of their search, in the middle, or maybe they've already relaunched and they're giving back. So I encourage you to get onto that and to hear success stories and to ask questions that our questions seem to come up. They come up sporadically, and then we go deep into learning, and it's a really good resource. So getting a community of support, a relaunch buddy, somebody that you're going to be held accountable to, that will help keep that momentum going and can help answer these questions as they come up.
I'm very much like the idea of a relaunch buddy, even if it's not somebody who's currently going through this as well, because that can be hard to find.
Yep.
But like, this is a lonely process, y'all. Like, job hunting in and of itself is like kind of sucky. You can tell that nobody really likes it because there's yet to be like an extreme like sports version of it, or like a TV show based on like the reality of job hunting. This is how you can tell, right? That no one enjoys doing this, and that's okay. We all have to do it. It sucks, whatever, we'll get through it. But I do think that, it is really important to recognize that like, this is a slog. It's okay to feel like it's a slog.
Right. Meg, if I could go back, I wanted to, because I know our time is short here, and I really want to get to some success stories to leave everybody on a high note. And what these stories are going to do is they're going to really underscore that it is a process that you can't take shortcuts, right? You're going to have ups and downs, and just know that everything that you're doing is part of your story. Be patient, be kind with yourself. Okay. So I really want to share one story in particular, and these are all on our website with respect to like podcasts. Our CEO and co-founder, Carol Fishman Cohen, has done many, many interviews, many of them with relaunch that have pivoted. So one of them in particular is Arena Ferguson. And she she pivoted after a 10-year period of time raising her children. One of them with special needs. So she started her career teaching in New York City. And during her break, she volunteered as a blogger for her university and for eventually like 10 different publications. Chicago Tribune, Huffington Post, Fairy God Boss, which many of you may be familiar with, Ebony Magazine. So while she was doing this, she was strategically volunteering because she wasn't getting paid for most of them, right? But what she was doing was she was loving it because she was writing and she knew she was good at that. And she was blending her writing with her teaching. And so she was building this portfolio of blogs that she used to get her dream job. So she didn't know what that dream job was called, but she just knew what she wanted to do. And the name came to her through her networking. So it is actually discovered it's a content designer. She's a UX designer now. So she did that through her learning. She did a summer internship, many younger than her at Udacity, which is an online education platform. Some of you may be familiar with it. And she's now works full-time as a UX designer. Another one, amazing story, Misbah Shif started her career in Pakistan, electrical engineer, followed her husband to the United States, very, very difficult birth of twins, then eldercare with a sick mother. But the whole time, getting back to certifications, she totally leveraged Salesforce Consulting, their admin certifications. And she loved learning. And then she had a mentor and her husband, and she ended up having a successful pivot that took up to 19 years, where she is actually a consultant now in IT, a senior consultant in an IT company. So both of these stories are examples of it's a gradual process. Be patient. And I'll just leave you, with one more piece of advice, just that buddy and how important that group is, your accountability group, and to also recognize that every up and down that you're going through, it may not feel like it, but you're on that road. You are definitely on the road to pivoting. You're showing up here. So I applaud you for that.
Heck yes. Y'all, if you took time out of your day to be here, you just spent 30 minutes, learning some more info about what you could do to improve yourself, your career, your work-life balance, all of that stuff. So thank you, y'all. Seriously. Thank you to everybody who came out for this. Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. It's been wonderful to get to see you again and chat with you. I can't wait until the next time we do this.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Meg. And thanks to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and good luck. Good luck with your pivoting.
Bye.
Thank you.